Hello, I'm Jimena Mejia from team number one, group 211, and the topic that we're going to be explaining is the cell. The cell is divided into types. We have prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells. I'm going to be explaining some things about the prokaryotic cell. We need to know that prokaryotic cells are the simplest form of life that exists, and they have existed since the beginnings of planet Earth because organisms were so much simpler back then. What characterizes a prokaryotic cell is their lack of a nucleus and some other membrane enclosed organelles that we cannot find it in this type of cell. Okay, prokaryotic cells are categorized into types. We have bacteria and archaea. As much as they may look similar, or you can say they are the same, well, they are not. They are similar in appearance and size, but they actually differ in their structure and metabolic pathways. Bacteria domain in pathogenic species such as Helicobacter pylori and Clostridium botulinum. Then we have methanogenic organisms for the archaea. As you can observe in this image, the internal structure of a prokaryotic cell is not that complex. It's actually very simple, and they are very tiny organisms because they measure around 1 to 2 micrometers in diameter. Most prokaryotic cells have singular circular chromosomes, and they occupy a region in the cytoplasm that is called the nucleus, that it is this one. And they may also have some circular DNA that is called the plasmid. The reproduction of the prokaryotic cell is asexual. Here we can observe that there is a parent cell, and here it is dividing into two, and here we have the finished other two cells. This happens because of binary fission, and the bad thing about this type of reproduction is that they are not that varied in genetic material, and they just copy their DNA to have a faster reproduction.
Hi, my name is Luna Valentina Flores Hernandez, and I'm going to talk about the parts of the prokaryotic cell. First, let's go for the exterior of the cell. We have pilus, which is in the capsule. So let's talk about it. The capsule, which is made of short polymers. It prevents the cell from drying out. I'm going to put an image here so that you can see which one is, and that is the first thing we see when we take a look to the prokaryotic cell. Now let's go for what's inside the cell. We have the cell wall. The cell wall is underneath the capsule. It has everything to do with protecting the interior of the cell. And close, we have the plasma membrane, which lies in the cell wall. It stabilizes the materials that go out and into the cell. Now let's go for the things that are floating inside the cell, which they're not actually floating, by the way. There's something called cytoplasm, is all you can find inside the plasma membrane. I mean, it's the thing that holds all these components and protects them from damage. Once said this, let's talk about the plasmid and chromosome. The plasmid carry genes non-essential, and these ones are copied from the chromosome, which carry information from cell to cell. The next one we have is the ribosome. This one provides proteins to the cells, so it's essential for the growth of the cell. We have the mesosome, which supports the respiration of the cell, and finally we have the nucleus. It has to do with the reproduction, growth, and function of the cell. Practically, it controls every single activity in the cell. So, as you can see, it's very important and essential for the function of the cell. That's all. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Alondra Elizondo, and in this part I'm going to explain what the eukaryotic cell is all about. Eukaryotic cells are the cells that contain membrane-bound nucleus and organelles. They are usually multicellular, but they can also be unicellular. And this is one difference between eukaryotic cells and prokaryotic cells. They can maintain different environments in a single cell that allows them to carry out various metabolic reactions. This helps them grow many times larger than the prokaryotic cells. Eukaryotic cells are exclusively found in plants, animals, fungi, protozoa, and other complex organisms. In plant cells, the cell wall is made up of cellulose, which provides support to the plant. The plant cell contains chloroplast, which aids in the process of photosynthesis. In fungal cells, some have holes known as septa, which allows the organelles and cytoplasms to pass through them. In animal cells, these do not have cellulose. Instead, they have cell membrane. That is the reason why animals have different shapes. And in the protozoa, they are unicellular organisms, and some of them have cilia for locomotion, which allows them to travel throughout the space. And also they have a thin layer called pellicule that provides support to the cell.
Hello, my name is Marcia Duron, and I'll be talking about the eukaryotic cell, parts and functions. But I'll be explaining specifically the parts of the animal cell, which are also eukaryotic cells. First, we have the nucleus, which houses the DNA in its interior and consists of three main parts: the nuclear envelope, the chromatin, and the nucleolus. Next, we have the nucleolus, which is the site of ribosome manufacture and is composed of ribosomal RNA, chromosome sections, proteins, and ribosomes in various synthesis stages. Then we have the nuclear membranes, and its critical function is to act as a barrier that separates the contents of the nucleus from the cytoplasm. We also have the cytoplasmic membrane, whose function is to decide what goes in and out of the cell. After that, there's an endoplasmic reticulum, which is in charge of providing a large surface area for different chemical activities, which are the synthesis of proteins, lipids, and membrane components. Then there are the lysosomes, which function as the digestive system of the cell, serving both to degrade material taken from the outside of the cell and to digest obsolete components of the cell itself. After that, we have the mitochondrion, which converts energy into a product that can be used by the cell through cellular respiration. Next, the cytoplasm is a space between the hereditary material and the plasma membrane. It contains different types of cell organelles. Even after those, we have the ribosomes that are responsible for protein synthesis and can be found attached to the endoplasmic reticulum, which causes the rough appearance. Then there is the Golgi apparatus, which is a specialized set of interconnected flattened membranous sacs, which have several functions, and packaging finished molecules into vesicles for transport to other parts of the cell. Finally, we have the microtubules, and they function to determine the cell shape and a variety of cell movements, including some forms of cell locomotion.
Hi, my name is Eliano Cuevas Garcia from Team Biology, and I am going to talk about the eukaryotic and prokaryotic cells and their differences. As we know, cells are the smallest unit of life. All living organisms are made of cells. These cells are divided into two types, and I'm going to explain the difference between these two types. First, what is a eukaryotic cell? Eukaryotic cells are a complex cell with membrane-bound nucleus containing genetic material and specialized compartments called organelles that perform specific functions. These cells are typically larger and can reproduce sexually or asexually. Examples include animal, plant, and fungal cells. On the other hand, we got prokaryotic cells. The prokaryotic cells are smaller and simpler. They are lacking of a true nucleus and a membrane-bound organelles. The genetic material floats freely in the cytoplasms and they have simpler structures like ribosomes and cell wall. These are smaller and primarily reproduce asexually. Examples include bacteria and archaea. If we compare the cells eukaryotic and prokaryotic side by side, we can see some differences. The features that I'm going to talk about are the nucleus, the organelles, the size, DNA organization, reproduction, and some examples of where you can find that type of cell. First, the nucleus. A eukaryotic cell has a membrane-bound nucleus. Meanwhile, a prokaryotic cell does not have a nucleus. And talking about organelles, they are present in eukaryotic cells. They are present, diverse, and specialized. In prokaryotic cells, they are absent because they are more simple structures. Then, talking about size, eukaryotic cell is larger, and a prokaryotic cell is like 10 times smaller. And about DNA organization, the eukaryotic cell has linear chromosomes in nucleus, and the prokaryotic cell has single circular chromosome. About reproduction, eukaryotic cells can reproduce by sexual and asexual reproduction, and prokaryotic cells primarily asexual reproduction. Some examples of where you can find this type of cells are eukaryotic cells, animals, plants, fungi, and protists. Prokaryotic cells can be found in bacteria and archaea. The prokaryotic cell and eukaryotic cells have some differences in their structure. I'm going to talk about the most notables. First, the prokaryotic cells have a flagella, and the eukaryotic cell does not have anything. Then, the prokaryotic cell has many pili. Meanwhile, the eukaryotic cell only has cilia, and there are less than the pili. The genetic material on the prokaryotic cell is floating in the cytoplasm, and the eukaryotic cell has genetic material in the nucleus organized. Also, the prokaryotic cell has many cell walls. Meanwhile, the eukaryotic cells just have like one divider, and it's like less protected. Also, the shape is very different because the prokaryotic cell is like larger, like a cucumber, and the eukaryotic cell is more like a small circle, like a football ball. Thanks for seeing our video, and I'm going to leave here the references so you can read where we get all of our information. And yes, thank you for watching our video, and hope you have a nice day.